Hello, everyone. It's Viveka von Rosen, and I'm a fangirl. I got to admit, David, I bought your first book, which I have somewhere, back when you published it in 2010. Yours was one of the first books out there for those of us dipping our toes into, what was then social media marketing.
Yeah.
David Meerman Scott. I mean, I don't think I have to say anything more than that. Everyone should know you. I knew you for the longest time as at DM Scott.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, it's great to be on with you. The last time we saw each other was in my very last in-person event of 2020. And I never would have thought I would say that the last in-person speech I delivered in 2020 was 9 months ago. What's up with that? It was March 2nd in San Diego.
I know. I thought, we'll all stay home. We'll all wear our masks and we'll all be back on the road by April, maybe May, at the latest June. And now we're hesitant to book things in March 2021.
Oh, I don't think we're going to see a stage until Q3 at the very earliest, but more likely Q4.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time to sort this out. Which
is why you wrote this book, Standout Virtual Events, How to Create an Experience that your audience will
look, I have a copy too. How about that? I have a virtual image and I have a real one. Look at that. How cool is that?
That's amazing. The virtual and the real. It's a metaphor.
I know, right? Like we're living our lives virtually, but oh my gosh, there's something you can actually hold in one's hand.
Well, and that's, you and I both, we did but we both did inbound, and I thought they did a really good job.
They did a great job. HubSpot did a great job with inbound. I believe, other than the founders of the company, I may be the only person who's spoken at every single inbound.
Wow.
Since the very beginning. I've been an advisor to HubSpot since 2007. And, they were worried. Everyone's worried about a virtual event, but I think they pulled it off. And I think people really enjoyed it. They did some cool things. So I loved their Brian Darmesh's opening. Great.
It was, if anyone was going to crush it, they were going to. So question, because it came up really quickly, and I know you were mid-writing the book when the event happened. What did you help counsel them on what to do? Because
I had a couple of phone calls with the organizers, but they were well down the path. The thing that I was able to, the value I was able to provide is that by that point, I had done maybe 20 virtual keynotes, and I had really come up with some ideas for how I think they need to happen. So I was able to give my experience as a speaker. Now that's different than how it works as an organizer, but as a speaker, I was able to give my ideas. And I thought that, to me, it seemed like it was helpful. And then I also was able to engage with them on how to bring interaction into it, because
that's key, right?
It's not one way. One way isn't how you best do a virtual event. You have to figure out how to make it two-way, how to involve the audience. So we had some discussions around there, but my input was minimal. HubSpot's an awesome organization. What I think is important that HubSpot already figured out well before I got on the phone with them is that just like you talked about the new rules of marketing and PR that you read way back when I first was writing what became the new rules of marketing and PR, that was back in 2004, 2005, 2006. Facebook either didn't exist, or when it first started was only for students. Twitter didn't exist. YouTube was just coming out. So it was early.
Yeah.
And and before that, I actually worked in the online news business for companies like Dow Jones and Thomson Reuters. And so I had a ton of experience in multiple markets for how you bring something that originated in an offline world and you bring it online. So, for example, with online news, which was my background starting in the 1980s when I got out of college, with the online news business, most newspapers screwed it up because they just tried to make a print newspaper and put it online. Yeah. And in the case of
charge for it.
Right. And in the case of marketing, most marketing agencies screwed it up because what they tried to do was take the paradigm they understood, which is advertising, and apply it to the web. When we all know now, it's not about advertising, it's about publishing content. And that's what my book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR, was about, publishing content. And then I think about what Vengreso is doing, right? Because as sales moves online, it's not just a matter of figuring out how you do cold calls in an online environment. You have to completely rethink. So that's why I love being associated with you and the team and Mario, because it's a super cool thing. So then we hit this idea of virtual events. And, March 2nd was my last in-person event. Everything stopped. And then the whole market went, oh my God, what do we do now? Well, it's virtual events. But the vast majority of organizations did exactly what salespeople do, just try to recreate what they know in an online world, or what newspapers do, try to recreate what they know in an online world, or what marketers do, try to recreate what they know. And so I recognized there was an opportunity to really go out there and dig into the topic. And HubSpot was separately doing the same thing.
Same thing, kind of. So what have you discovered? What elements do virtual summits, virtual events need to increase that audience participation? And so, because you say in your book, and as you just said, you can't just replicate what you had in real life and try and do it online. You have to scrap it and start from the bottom up. So what are some of those elements?
So what I think is super interesting about the whole thing is that in an in-person speech, it's really all about a theatrical experience. So here's me at a Tony Robbins event, 2,500 people. I love this photograph. My friend Maya took it. So the idea here is in a theatrical experience. What you do is you play to the back row. You use the whole stage. It's a 3-act play in a sense, if you're doing an in-person speech well. But an in-person speech also can include the audience. Here's a picture of me at another event where I invited some of the members of the audience to come up. We do a selfie together. And I push that out on social media. So, so it's a theatrical experience, but it also includes the audience. And so the idea then becomes, okay, so what's different about a virtual event? Well, I believe it's not a theatrical experience, but rather it's a cinematic experience or a television metaphor.
Because you've got the screen. You don't have the stage, you've got the screen.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And so it's a smaller environment, you know. You have to.
You can only move so much.
And you can only move so much. It's not like a big stage that we're used to, and you can run around like an idiot like I normally do. You play to the camera. I'm not looking at, as much as I would love to look at your beautiful face right now, I'm not. I'm looking at the camera because otherwise it's weird. Oh, now I'm looking at you. But if you look at me, it's like ridiculous, right?
No, I read that in your book and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I think I've repeated it like 40 times since then because we feel, but you're right. Now I'm looking at you. Now I'm looking at the camera. And so you're not actually connected.
And it's super disconcerting at first because you really want to speak to the other person. You gotta beeline on that lens. And there's a lot of little bits and pieces we could dig into, but I've got my camera exactly at my eye level. I've also got my camera 4 feet away, and we can talk about what that means in just a second. I have good lighting, I have good microphone, and so on. So it's all good. But then, so then when you think about a good virtual talk, now I'm not talking about the overall event, but a good virtual talk, you also need to be thinking in very small chunks. Again, like a television show, like a television news broadcast. So think about a television news broadcast that goes on for an hour. I don't know, the Today Show or something like that, right? You've got the anchor people who are maybe at an anchor desk, and they chit chat for a little while. Then there's a story that one of them delivers. Then they maybe go to a video that's somewhere else. Maybe they have a recorded segment that they deliver. Then they go to the weather person and the sports person. So it's mixed up a lot. And I try with my talks, and I recommend for people when they're doing a virtual keynote, how can you have short segments, 6 or 7 minutes long? And those segments are very distinct and have something a little bit different. And how can you then use that technique in order to be able to make it an interesting experience for someone, rather than just droning on and talking about your stuff. So I've had a chance to speak at sort of 3 different levels of virtual studios. I'm talking to you now from my virtual studio at home. And I've got some good lights. I've got a good microphone. I've got a nice background. And what I've chosen to do is have a secondary computer with a screen that's over my shoulder. I have a clicker in my hand, and I show my slides over my shoulder. The reason I do this is really important. The reason is because the vast majority of virtual event software platforms, think Zoom, for example, or GoToWebinar, for example. Those platforms, normally, if you're presenting slides, you're a little tiny thumbnail in the corner of the screen. And the slides are enormous. And it's brutal for the audience.
It's true.
So the way there's other ways to solve it, but the way I've personally chosen to solve it is it's sort of analog. I mean, it's low tech. It's a screen over my shoulder. But I figured out how to do the lights. I figured out how to make it work. There are ways you can do this using software. I'm not a fan of the software ways. I think that this way works better. So this is my little home studio. And then over my shoulder here is a picture of me, in a studio in Boston, where this is, if the organizer of the event, and I've done, half a dozen like this, pays extra money to hire the studio. There's multiple cameras. There's a bigger screen. There's better lights. And it can be a super cool experience. And then the ultimate is,
I love that,
at Tony Robbins, which is just unbelievable, because Tony has built a purpose-built studio near his home in Florida. And it's got a 20-foot tall wall that's 50 feet round.
Wow.
50 feet in diameter.
So it's all around.
All around. So what you're seeing in this little photograph is maybe, a small slice of the pizza pie of the round screen. And I'm able to see 2,000 people's screens. And I see their name, and I can interact with them, and I can say, hey, what's going on? And I can ask a question, or why are you sitting down? You should be standing up, things like that. So that's kind of the ultimate. And working, I do a 2-hour session in this room. There's 5 cameras. There's amazing sound, amazing lights. And I got to say, 2 hours in a studio presenting to thousands and thousands of people. It's a big task.
I was going to say that would be exhausting.
I get off the stage and I am beat, man. I am so beat. But it's interestingly, it's more intimate.
Yeah.
Than when I present on a Tony Robbins stage like this one.
Right. Because you can't see the people in the back.
Because, and they're really far away from me.
Really far away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this way you can walk around the room and be
I can engage with individual people if I choose to do so.
That is really
so those are some of the thoughts about how to do the this idea of taking what's a taking what's a theatrical experience, like a 3-act play, which is a in-person stage performance, to turning it into a television experience, making it more of a cinematic or television experience when you bring it online.
So selfishly, as a speaker, I'm going to skip. We'll come back to the extra questions, but so as a speaker. Now, how do I prepare for a virtual event? Because like you, I'm all over the stage. I'm very theatrical. Super Viv comes out. So
Super Viv.
Now what do I do?
Super Viv. I love that. That's awesome. That should be, you should have like an alternative Twitter handle, Super Viv.
Yeah, maybe I should. Exactly.
And if no one owns that,
LinkedIn.
if no one owns that URL, you ought to buy the .com right away.
I love it. But so what do I do? You know, what do other speakers do who are so comfortable speaking on stage, and then, you know, or maybe they were never comfortable speaking on stage and they finally got there and now they're like, and now you got to speak to the camera. Right.
So what I do for an event like this one, or even just an event that I'm doing in my home studio where I am right now, is I create a timeline. And it's, you know, let's say I have a 45-minute keynote. I'll have the start, you know, even pre-start, but then the start, and then what's going to happen every minute going through that timeline. And typically with a 45-minute talk, what I will typically do is have probably 2 or 3 polling questions. I'll depending on the platform, if it's available, I'll use the chat feature at least once or twice. I'll probably show 2 or 3 videos.
That's important.
And I'll probably have 1 guest speaker. At an event like this one where I had a 2-hour time slot, you kind of double that. And I had in this case, I had 2 guest speakers who popped in for about 10 minutes each, where I tell their story, and then I then have them come in and I can have a conversation with that person. But what's really, really important is that the event organizers know what's going to happen, so that they can be backstage helping out as the presentation is going on. So,
you have got to have moderators and hey, Andre, thank you. You can't just do it yourself.
No, you've got to have people. So with Tony Robbins, for example, I've got 30 people working in the room in the back.
Do you hear that, Mario? 30 people.
There's 30 people backstage behind here. And I want every single one of them to know exactly what I'm going to do every minute that I'm on that stage. If I'm doing a presentation just from my home studio, there might be 1 or 2 people who are, you know, they're virtual, they're on Zoom somewhere. Or whatever the platform is somewhere. But they also have my timeline so that they know the first video comes 8 minutes in, and David will say, roll the video, and they got to be bang on. And that's their job. And we've rehearsed it. We rehearsed it the week before. With Tony Robbins, we, you know, because I actually physically go to his studio, we rehearsed it the night before, and they know at minute 24, David's going to do a polling question. You have to pop it up. And minute 46, David's going to tell a quick story and then invite the person he's talking about to be interviewed. And that's virtual. They're calling from their home. But that person has to already be on the line. They have to be ready and queued up so that when I say Super Viv, are you there? That then you pop up immediately.
Right.
And that all requires incredible timing. It requires a timeline. It requires a rehearsal. It requires that everybody backstage knows what's going on, whether it's literally backstage in a studio like this one, or virtual backstage, like, running the Zoom or the whatever the platform is. And I, as a speaker, it's in my contract. It's my rider, It's like I don't ask for the brown M&Ms, but I say we have to have a studio. We have to have a rehearsal. You have to be prepared to play my videos for me, because the last thing I want to do is like screw around trying to
show the forehead shot.
Oh, and then I have to go over here, and I have to put on my glasses because I can't see, and I'm trying. And can you see my video now? I mean, that just ruins the whole dynamic. So I need somebody to do that for me.
Exactly.
That was a long answer to a simple question. But.
No, it was an excellent answer. And it almost seems to me like you have to be more prepared to do virtual presentations than even live.
In a way, because
you can't.
It requires a lot.
Yeah.
It requires a lot from backstage. I'm pretty obsessive about my in-person speeches too. I want the lighting people, the sound people to know what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But it's more important in a virtual event, especially a bigger one where there's multiple things happening, and it's important to make sure that everybody knows. Okay, video number 3. It's going to happen in 3, 2, 1. David Q, go.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of speakers think, okay, great. I got my camera, I got my lighting, I got my Zoom. I don't have to wear pants, and so there, but that's not it. It's actually, it sounds like more prep if you want to keep your audience engaged.
I think of it as my performance art. I really do. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw. I can't, there's nothing I can do, but I compensate for that by thinking about when I'm in front of a camera or on a stage. That's my form of art, and I love it. So it's kind of cool. Are we able to show that little quick video we talked about?
Yeah. Let me. Let me go check here. Which one do you want?
I wanted to just let me set it up. I think we've got about a 2-minute or so highlight reel of me at the Tony Robbins Business Mastery event, virtual event, and I just thought it'd be cool for people to see what the kind of ultimate virtual event with 30 people backstage and a massive purpose-built studio can look like. So yeah, let's show that.
All right, no problem. And let me know if you can hear sound.
Yes, I'm hearing sound.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Who wants to build fans of your business? We're going to talk about building fans. We're going to talk about generating leads. We're going to talk about growing business. So what I'd like to start off with is, please put into the chat so we can all see it, what you're a fan of. And I want to share an example from a young woman who I met right here at Business Mastery several years ago. Her name is Viveka. Rebecca's awesome. She decided to retire, and she started a triathlon club. And in the beginning, when I met her at Business Mastery, she had only 4 clients, and she's been growing steadily since then by doing the things we're talking about today. Would you like to meet Beck? Beck, are you here? I'm here.
So I don't think we need to watch the rest, but that's just the idea of the production value and the idea that when I say, Beck, are you there? I mean, Beck needs to be there, right? And the videos that I play need to play on time. And so I think that's a super cool example. And I can't wait to be back at that fabulous stage. Looks like March will be the next time.
Oh, that is awesome. Now you mentioned, and we love Fanocracy, needless to say, at Vengreso. And we'll put the link. I don't you might have to look for it, Andre, because we have the link for your newest book, which is also awesome. But the whole idea of Fanocracy, that's, every time I read one of your books, I'm like, it's so obvious. And yet David's the one who came up with the name. David's the one who came up with the concept. But no, it's, so tell us a little bit about Fanocracy. And I know we only have like 4 minutes left because you got a hard stop, but tell us a little bit about Fanocracy, the book, the concept, and how people can use it today.
Oh, thanks for that. I appreciate that. The whole idea of Fanocracy is turning fans into customers and customers into fans. So what and I wrote it with my daughter, Reiko. Yep. She, when we started writing the book about 5 years ago, she was in medical school. She graduated this year. She's now an emergency room doctor at Boston Medical Center. She's actually in the COVID ICU unit right now, which is.
Did she get her shot? Did she get her vaccine?
She's going to get it this week. She may have gotten it. As of last night, she hadn't gotten it. Maybe she's gotten it today, but she's first in line. She's not only a healthcare worker working emergency, but she's working the COVID unit.
Wow.
And so what we looked at was how and why do people become fans of something, an idea, a company, a product, a service, a person, a sport, a team they love, whatever it might be. And then how
an underwear subscription.
Yeah, a subscription underwear company. And I am wearing pants, but if my pants weren't on, you would see me undies on the rest of my body. And then how can any organization build fans? And we have a prescription for doing so. So it's super interesting given the world we're in right now, because there's lots of ways to build fans that you can do virtually. And so many people are just struggling right now. And, now is a time to build fans, because when we come out of this pandemic at some point, the more people you have that love and support you, the better you'll be doing into 2022 and beyond.
Yeah. Now, there was a gentleman earlier who said he's in the UK and he was unable to get standout virtual events in the UK. Will it be coming soon?
It is available on Amazon in the UK right now. I know that for a fact. It can be either as a Kindle version or as a print-on-demand version.
Okay, print-on-demand.
You'd have to go to amazon.co.uk to get it.
Okay, all right, there we go. Because every book of David's is worth getting and ingesting. I'm going through Fanocracy again right now, and also, of course, reading virtual standout events. I know you have a hard stop in 4 minutes, 3 minutes, really. So any final words that you want to tell us, and are there any final questions in the audience?
I'll give a couple final words, and if there's any other questions, we can probably do one quickly. These ideas, I believe, are super fun. And a lot of times people say business isn't fun, sales isn't fun. But I think the idea of building fans is super fun. I think the idea of delivering virtual presentations can be super fun.
Yeah. And I think that's it. People are so stressed out and they don't think about, they get stressed. And so the fun aspect drops away. But the examples you have about fandom in Fanocracy are just brilliant. And the whole concept, it's not about price. It's not about product. It's about building that Fanocracy. And if you've got a Fanocracy, it's going to last through anything that the universe wants to throw at us, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. 100%.
We'll help you do that. Those virtual events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. I'm going to let you go because I know you have to go. And what we'll do, Andre, is we'll play one of David's videos. Let's see.
Okay, great. Thanks, Super Viv. This is great. I really enjoyed it. And we'll come back. We'll do it again next year.
All right. That sounds great. I would love to do that. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. And for everybody else, let's watch Dave.
There's been an explosion of virtual events recently. I've seen some that have been great. I've seen some that have missed the mark. And I've seen some that have been truly awful. I wanted to provide for you some of my thoughts as a virtual event speaker for how you can create a great event. The main thing to be thinking about here is that it's not about taking what works in a physical, in-person environment and bringing it online. You need to reimagine what's possible. The best virtual events are more like television than they are like theater. Can I geek out a little bit? So I love being on film sets and movie sets. This book I wrote called Marketing the Moon actually was turned into a 3-part American Experience miniseries by PBS, and I loved being a part of that as a contributing producer. I introduced Buzz Aldrin to the film producer and had a chance to be there when he was being interviewed. I've been in films like
All right, everyone, we're going to wrap this up. We've got the links to everything in. We got the links to everything in chat. Thank you. Great participation from the audience today. Love having you all here. You can keep throwing questions in chat. We are going to end this broadcast now. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. See you later.